I'm Brian Ossenheiler, and today I'm going to plant some sweet potatoes in my chinampa. Alright, it's time to get our slips for planting. So, I bought these from the grocery delivery guy. Well, the sweet potatoes, that is. Check this out. These little slips here, I'm going to break off. And this guy is what we put in the ground. I'll take off the leaves, and then it's going to send out a tuber there. And if the rabbit doesn't get to it first, or the agouti, or the rat, or more likely some kind of fungus, then we'll actually have a sweet potato to eat, which I have yet to harvest more than like a nub. So, a lot of hope on the line here, buddy. Don't let me down. You can eat the leaves as well, although apparently if you eat too many of them, it's not good for you. So there we have it. 10 slips from my orange sweet potatoes, 10 slips from my purple sweet potatoes. Phenomenal root growth, better than last time I tried to do this, maybe because I put some beneficial microbes on that. These will continue to send out more slips that I will plant in a month. I just don't want to plant too many at a time because I don't want to eat too many at a time. I can only eat so many at a time, so I'm going to plant them gradually and harvest gradually. Now it's time to plant. So I'm going to give all my slips a generous dose of my beneficial microbial mix. Bought this on Amazon. Don't know if it works, but I need all the help I can get. So take my handy cow rib. You need one of these. If you're going to plant sweet potatoes, they are essential. So go out, find a dead carcass, mind the bone. It's really essential. That's what I hear. I'm going to clear an area, take my slip, lay it down. Cover the base, leaving the leaf out here and covering much of the slip so that I get a lot of good root development. Then maybe for good luck we'll put a vertebra in here, or perhaps to mark the end so I don't step on the base of the bed where I've cleared. How long is it going to take these vertebrae to decompose? I don't know, but they have phosphorus and calcium. That's what they're made out of. I mean, this animal walked around all day mining these important nutrients, and if I live here the rest of my life, sooner or later those nutrients are going to go into my food, and this bone will become my bone. How close to plant them? I don't really know, but in general, the closer, the smaller the tuber. So those guys are probably a little too close. I like big tubers. The problem is that if I plant them too far away and I get some weeds, I won't get a good canopy coverage from my sweet potato to choke out any weeds. So here, my weed pressure is relatively low, hopefully. So I'm going to go with a little more distance, even though I'm going to run the risk of weeds, and might actually have a lower total yield. But I just don't like these little sweet potatoes. You got to peel each one, and that time matters. So let's plant. Well, here's a few more notes on why I chose to plant things the way I did. First of all, why did I plant it on a chinampa, on a raised bed? Clay is not a great medium for growing root vegetables because it packs really hard. By making the chinampa, in the process of removing the dirt to get rid of basically a somewhat mucky but not fully water, not fully dry terrain, and switch it to complete immersion and a drier place, in the process of moving I had already turned the soil. So I'm essentially taking advantage of energy that I already invested in creating a more productive habitat for my taro, my aquatic plants. I've already have moved the clay, which helps. In the process of moving it, I also chopped and brought in leaves and sticks, as well as leaves and sticks that the stream has brought by. So I have been supplying some organic material to the soil. In general, the soil has practically no nutrients here to begin with. Well, the clay does have nutrients because of the acidity and because the clay binds to them very firmly. It's very hard for the plants to get the nutrients. So I've brought in as much organic material as I can, both from the adjacent trees that you saw me pruning, as well as from debris that's coming down, as well as from compost that has come from my own pig system and from the leaf cutters. That's supplying hopefully the calcium, phosphorus, and potassium that the root vegetables need to grow and produce good roots. The nitrogen will come from primarily from the leaf cutter midden that has some of the ant bodies in it, and my compost, my mature compost from the pig system, should have some nitrogen. Root vegetables like sweet potato, I've read, don't need much nitrogen. Well, the first time I just tried planting, I just tilled the clay, and they're like, oh yeah, don't overfeed your root vegetables. I planted them, they really couldn't grow at all. There just was nothing to feed them. So here, where we have a lot of rainfall and we have quite low nutrient density in the soil to begin with, overfeeding is much less of a problem. I have much more difficulty getting enough nutrients to my plants. Why did I cover them this way? That's to keep the soil from getting too hot and too hard too quickly. If I give my slips just a little bit of soil coverage, they won't put their root too deep. If they're too deep in the ground, it's going to be hard to dig them up. If I cover with a lot of leaves, it will both prevent the rain from physically impacting the soil. At the same time, it's going to reduce runoff of the soil, and it's going to suppress weed growth. I've made sure that my sweet potato has its leaf sticking out so that it can grow up and above the leaf mulch. It also should help reducing the amount that the its later growth reattaches to the soil. Every time it comes back to the soil, it has the potential to produce another tuber, which sounds great, except that it can only divide its energy into so many tubers, and so each tuber will be smaller. So I would prefer, from an efficiency of harvest perspective, to have one big tuber that I have to peel instead of a dozen tiny ones that I have to find, dig up, and peel. So that's why I've done things this way. We'll see if it works. Well, there you have it. I've planted 20 sweet potato slips in 3 hours. I've got 2 net systems here, one just a fence and the other with complete topping. We'll see if the fence, which saves on material, is sufficient to keep the rabbits at bay. If we have some birds eating the sweet potatoes, though, we're toast. So we'll see how it turns out. Now, if all 20 tubers produce just 1 pound of tubers, at 390 calories per pound, I'm looking at 7,800 calories. If I had another hour of weeding and harvest, then I'm at 4 hours total. Then I'm at 1,950 calories per hour of farm work. That's not amazing. I need to do better than that. My taro system over here, this aquatic plant, is clocking in at close to 4K per hour of farm work. Now that's once the system was established, so I have to run the numbers on establishing it. And here we've got, there's a bit more work. So the next time has to be easier. Hopefully it will be, because this vetiver grass that I've grown here will be my cover, and I've planted Gliricidia sepium, these stakes, to provide more nitrogen so that I bring in less material. However, a fair amount of the work was simply the soil turning, which I would imagine I'll still have to do. So if you have any ideas on how to make this more efficient, we're not meeting my 3,765 baseline of the Yanomami Indians and their agricultural system. So give me some ideas. Help me out. All right. Thanks. I'm Brian Ossenheiler, and this is Finca Ficus.